Okay, here we are. Hi. We're in the right room tonight. Good. Step one. That's good. Oh, goodness. Okay. Hi, Jordan. How are you? Look at that birthday banner. How fun. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Lynn. I love it. All right. Well, I know that a couple people are on, but people might be joining. And if not, I want to honor time because it's 6:30 and we'll get started and I can always send the recording. So I will share my screen. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. Okay. Do that. And slideshow. Perfect. Can everyone see the screen? Does that work? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, well, let's get started. So tonight is our fourth chapter. It's on assertiveness, saying no and being heard. I think this is going to be a really good one. Not that they're not all good. It's really finding that balance between kindness and firmness and not either one. So we're kind of going to refer to the terms either very passive or aggressive. And it's kind of like when you're doing two ends of the spectrum, it's too little or too much, and then you're not getting what you want. So we're going to discuss what that looks like tonight as we get into this chapter. Okay. So what is assertiveness? Being assertive shows that you respect yourself because you're willing to stand up for your interests and express your thoughts and feelings. It also demonstrates that you're aware of others' rights and willing to work on resolving conflicts. And I just know that, like, as we raise our kids, we want them to we want them to respect themselves, and we want them to stand up for their interests and express their thoughts and feel like emotionally safe. And I think oftentimes when we're too aggressive or we're too passive, we either are kind of encouraging them to be aggressive, or we're encouraging them to not share their feelings because they're maybe shut down so much because we're so like overly aggressive with them. And so not only do we want to respect ourselves, but our kids as we're raising them in that way. Okay, so this quote is great. It says, in all of our relationships, we actually teach others how to treat us. I think that's so interesting because, it's often maybe our words, but it's like our actions. We teach people by like the way we want to be treated. And that can be with a partner, a spouse, our kids. And you can say, like, even for kids, think about like how we respond to them. We're teaching them how to treat us. And so if we're very passive, we're training them to like roll over us. If we're too aggressive, then they're going to maybe become aggressive back with us as they get older. So we don't want that. We want to basically be teaching everybody how to treat us with just our actions, and just being either pretty much, we need to just work on being assertive, because that's going to be ultimately what we want. Okay, so children come to us when they have a problem that they don't know how to solve. So what happens is, that kind of falls under the line of tattling, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But when children come to us, and they tattle, like, she hit me, he wasn't listening to me, they don't know how to solve it. And so what happens is that, like, when we get annoyed or frustrated, or we're like, just go work it out, we as the adults actually expect children to possess skills that they themselves have yet to develop. So the problem is that sometimes we don't even possess the skills because we don't know how to handle other people. When something frustrates us, we go gossip about them, or we go around the corner and tell everybody else, except for confronting and being assertive, or we're very passive. And so when our kids come to us, we get super annoyed, but yet we are not doing it in our adult lives. You simply cannot teach your children skills that you do not possess. So that's why it falls back on us. If we don't work on being more assertive in our own lives, if we don't work on being more mindful, we cannot pass that along to our kids. We have to model what we want them to be and do in this world. And so I continue to work on that every single day in the classroom. What does that look like? And it will become, because right now it might feel like, oh, it's so clunky. I'm trying this and it doesn't feel right. I'm making mistakes left and right. And I still make mistakes. I want you to know that, because it's just learning, and it's like, we're human, and that's the thing. But I think the more I try it, it's kind of like that foreign language analogy. Like the more you try to speak it, the better you get. And you're going to be clunky. It feels like it's like broken. You're like, what am I trying to say here? The words aren't coming right. But this is a new language. And so when we speak to our kids in a way that we need them in a more of a teaching role, we're going to actually help giving them the tools they need how to solve more problems in their lives. Okay. So assertiveness, basically, I love this like picture. It's like, okay, assertive in the middle. It's like, okay, you feel confident, you feel calm, and you're like ready to take it on. You can see the aggressive nature is just like completely a hot mess. It's like, that is like really like kind of that's what's in us. And I mean, I've definitely felt aggressive before, because it's something that whenever we're triggered by something, that is when the aggression comes out. And then that is like how we handle it. And it's just in a different brain state. And then like the passive visual, it's like, oh, so worried. What's everyone going to think about me? It's kind of more that pleasing, asking a lot of questions. Are you ready? Are you ready to go now? It's, what do you think about that? It's just so passive that it just doesn't get what you need. You're giving your child too much permission in that way. So basically, assertiveness comes from the power of attention. So what you focus on, you get more of. And so take a sip of water real quick. It goes back to telling your children what not to do will get you many opportunities to repeat your instructions. That's the thing. So if you're constantly focused on, don't do that, please no, no yelling, no running in the house. You're going to basically have to overly repeat over and over what you want them to do. Excuse me. Being assertive and teaching your children what to do in an understandable terms, you will maximize the possibility that your child will choose to comply. So it's really getting down on their level. It's literally breaking down the steps in your mind so that it can be broken down for them what you want them to do. And I always just tell families, paint the picture of what you want them to do. They are not in your brain. They are not adults. They don't know what you mean if you are very, very nebulous. You have to paint the picture, give them exact verbs of what you want them to do, and help them understand. I'm a big fan of visuals on walls. If you want to teach how to do a routine, I love like taking pictures of kids doing the actual thing, and then I just post it on the wall so that they see themselves doing whatever that is. Brush the steps to brushing your teeth, the steps to getting ready for bed, whatever that looks like. It's so helpful to like have those visuals. So explaining them what to do. And that's almost getting ahead of it, as opposed to when you're assertive, you're getting ahead of it. You're planning it. If you're aggressive, you're responding and reacting in the moment. And then passive, you're trying to be pleasing. And so that you don't want any of that, because that's just not going to get you what you want. Okay, so the passive aggressive flip-flop. This is what it looks like. We often approach our children from a passive position. We don't mean to. We're trying to use like this kind voice. And so we think, oh, I'm going to ask them a question. Come on, honey, are you ready to go see grandma? And we ask it out of like almost like a kind voice, thinking that it just comes out of our mouth like a question. And all children have a will, which we know because we do. And if presented with a passive request, pretty much they are likely to resist in some form. It's going to happen because they have a will. And so if they don't want to see grandma right now, and you ask them in a question when that isn't even a choice, we're going to grandma's, they're going to resist. Possibly. If there is resistance, then the parent perceives it as disobedience. So all of a sudden the child's like, no, I don't want to go see grandma. Now the parent's triggered because, oh, great, you just said no to me. You said no to me? No. And so now it's like feeling like you want to, like, you're frustrated because they said no. An aggressive position is now taken by the parent in order to feel heard and obeyed. So now we become aggressive and we're going to go above our child. You are going to obey me. We're going to grandma's. If you're too aggressive, the parent feels guilty now, and then we switch back to passive mode. If you're good at grandma's, we'll stop for ice cream on the way home. And so it becomes a cycle of passive aggressive flip-flop. And kids learn quickly how to play that game. And so that is just not the position you want to go in, because you can see how that plays out. And it feels like you're stuck because now you've promised, you've gotten too aggressive. Now you've promised, you don't want to do that. So again, we're going to get into being assertive. Okay, so blocks to assertiveness. You must express your feelings, thoughts, and wishes without diminishing those of other people. That just means you're going to just think about it before you say it. Think about how you're going to feel about it. You're going to think about it, and your wishes, what you want. You must value yourself. If you're kind of putting yourself in a passive role, you're not valuing yourself when you express your thoughts to your kids. You must shift your focus from what you assume others are thinking and feeling to consciousness of your own mind's contents. So, I need to add, I think I have a typo in there, but I'll fix that. So I think there's a book called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it is such a great book. It talks about to not take things personally. And we've talked about that, the Q-tip. We've talked about, it also talks about to not make assumptions. And it also talks about being impeccable with your words. And those three agreements right there are amazing. And then the fourth one is do your best. And so we can't assume, we need to share what we want exactly, because otherwise our kids aren't going to know. And others, this is valuable tools for in our adult life. We have to speak assertiveness to get what we want out of life. So learning to be assertive. Recognize that it isn't a personality trait. I hear some people like, oh, they just, I'm just not an assertive person. I'm just too nice. Well, you know what? It's not a personality trait. You can learn how to be assertive. It just takes a lot of practice. Others are better at it than others, but you know what? It's something you can practice. Achieve self-awareness. So that's the thing. We really have to stop and be aware of what we're thinking. We have to ask ourselves, am I more passive? Am I more aggressive? Or do I flip-flop? And so that's becoming self-aware and not bouncing off what other people are thinking and feeling. It's actually just being aware of ourselves. And that takes some reflection. That takes focused meditation time or just consciousness to know where am I at in this? Monitor your own thought patterns, jot it down, think about it. What am I doing right now? What am I thinking? What am I triggering? What's happening here? And then teach and utilize assertiveness in all relationships. Really, it's gonna pass along to everything in your partnerships, your friendships, your kids. It's going to help you if you're more assertive in life. Okay, so this quote is great too. Passivity invites aggression. So it's kind of like we talked about before. If you're asking a question, do you want to do this? Well, the will comes out and it's aggression. Aggression begets aggression. So basically, if you come at it with aggression, your kids are going to come back at you with aggression. And that's the same with an adult relationship as well. It may not happen initially because maybe when they're little, they get maybe more afraid and they retreat. But as they get older, they are going to become more aggressive. And maybe their tantrum won't at this point, their tantrum won't subside because they're feeling the aggression of you. But assertiveness dissipates aggression. And so that is really what we want. Obviously, we don't want aggression. We don't want the passive. Okay, so the goal of assertiveness is clarity. And so that goes back to painting that picture. We need to paint that picture of what we want very clear. And so otherwise it's going to feel passive. When we communicate passively, the goal is not clarity, but it's to please others. We feel too worried about what other people are thinking about us. And so we're not thinking of clarity. We're just worried about others. And we have to stop that because that's not going to help us. And like we get worried about our kids. Oh my goodness, are they going to throw a tantrum? Oh my goodness, are they going to think I'm the meanest parent ever? We need to get to the side of that and say, nope, I'm going to be clear and then I'm going to be helpful to my child. A passive parent manipulates and may even plead with the children to behave. So, it's just, please, come on, please just get up. Please just come out of bed. It's just that it's the manipulating. I'll give you the punishments and rewards. And when you're passive, you're mostly disrespecting yourself. You don't want to do that. You want to respect both. And when you're aggressive, you're kind of disrespecting other people. So when you're assertive, you're respecting both sides of it. And this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, the fourth one down. Passive people long to be perfect, so everyone will like them. I mean, I think there's many people in this world that are way more people pleasing. And I know I sometimes struggle with that, of just being perfect. And there is no perfect. And that's the thing. We have to, so we're passive because we don't want to upset others, because if we upset others, that feels like we are not perfect. And so we have to even go, what is perfect? So there is no such thing as perfect. There's no one that's perfect. So we have to get aside of that. Could you try to be helpful? This is a vague question and invites resistance and a rise in power from your child. So even asking that, could you try to be helpful? You know what? That's not clear enough. That's being very passive. You could say, you know what, today we're going to work on being helpful. And this is how let's talk about how we can be helpful. Hey, today and then maybe you model it. Today I'm going to be helpful by packing you a lunch. And then how are you going to be helpful with getting us ready for the day? It's just asking and being like kind of really assertive in that, because when you just say, could you try to be helpful? That's very nebulous. And that's actually encouraging a child to go, no, I'm not going to be helpful. I'm tired today. I don't want to help you. And you don't want to invite that in at all. Okay. So aggression, I love this like visual. That's just the spectrum, like assertive. And then to the left, it's a martyr, and then passive, and then passive aggressive on the other side, and then aggressive. So aggression is desiring to win by overpowering. I mean, that's, certain personalities, more type A, are definitely like that. And so you feel like, I'm going to win. I'd rather win than be in community. And so that just doesn't help, because then nobody feels connected to you. It's disconnecting when if somebody tries to overpower another. Winning means getting the other person to do what you want. That doesn't help. Use statements, focus on the other person, not the problem. You always interrupt me. That's, it can say, I feel frustrated when I'm on the phone and you come up and tap me on the shoulder. When you need me and you see me on the phone, wait until I'm done. So instead of that, it's just that language focus shift. Accusations that start with you leave a child feeling attacked and invite an argument, basically. That's the aggression. Any statement about the other person, as opposed to statements about one's own feelings or thoughts, tends to have an attacking quality. So that is such self-reflection for me, of just like, if I'm making a statement to another person about, as opposed to statements about one's own feelings, I need to own my feelings and thoughts, as opposed to passing down a you and an attack, because that attacked feeling is going to just really breed that aggression. And that's not what we want for our kids and for the environment of our home. Okay, so how to be an assertive parent. The goal is clear communication. We want clear. You cannot be assertive if you think a lot about what others think of you. You have to work on that. We all have to work on that. If we're really worried about what others think of us, and maybe we're trying to please our kids too much, or anybody, we have to work on that before we can be more clear. State your wants, needs, and expectations clearly and simply. Maybe you have to really formulate it before you say it, because that can be so helpful. State what you want and keep it concise. Match your nonverbal communication to your verbal communications. So often when we are saying something, but then we're doing the opposite. We need to have both aligned, the nonverbal and the verbal. So like if we're yelling from another room, that's not helpful. We need to get close to our kids. We need to get down. We need to communicate in a soft voice, and our body language needs to be calm. Give children choices only when they really have choices. If they don't have a choice to go to grandma's, we're not going to say you have a choice. You can go to grandma's now, or you can go to grandma's in an hour. That's not a choice if we have to go right now. You have to think about it. If your child doesn't have a choice, then you're going to respond out of empathy. And we're going to get into that in a little bit, kind of what to do in those moments, because not everything is open to a choice. Give commands that contain usable, helpful information, and avoid rhetorical questions. What are you thinking? Is that helpful? Is that nice? I mean, those are rhetorical questions, and we don't want to do that. We want to give commands that can contain usable, helpful information. Own and express your feelings to your children. I feel frustrated when you come in the living room and you're screaming at the top of your lungs. When we come in the living room, let's use a quieter voice like this, and then model it, because that's what you need to do, and to show them. Show respect for your child and enforce the rules. So again, you're going to take a deep breath. You're going to be calm. You're going to respect them. You're going to use your I statements, and then you're going to say so hopefully you've already taught the rules. And so you're going to enforce them by, this is how we do it in our home, like whatever you expect. And then you talk about it. And that's the way to be more of an assertive parent. So when we get angry, it has its roots in fear. So often when our kids do something, it could be dangerous, maybe because they're doing something, like climbing on something. But also if they do something like lying and it triggers us, they're not being honest. It has its roots in fear. We're worried, oh my gosh, are they going to become like the world's worst, like best liar? And then they're going to be a con artist. Like there's something in us that feels fearful when our kids do something that's not in alignment with what we value. And so when we get angry, it has its roots in fear, because we're afraid of, like, it's kind of what it basically is I'm out of control. I don't know what to do in this moment. And so I'm fearful, and because we don't feel like we know what to do and how to handle it. So just be aware of, like, why am I feeling afraid? What's triggering me in this moment when I'm feeling so angry? What's causing this fear to happen? Okay, so when young children turn fearful situations into a game, you're needing to use assertiveness. Okay, so an aggressive voice sounds angry. Okay, children sense that if a parent is angry, that parent is also afraid. So our kids are very smart. So if when an aggressive voice comes out, so they sense it's angry, and then they know that the parent's kind of afraid. And then a passive voice puts the child in charge, because now you're asking them too many questions, giving them too much permission. And then being in charge is also scary for a young child. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in charge. I know I'm not supposed to be in charge, but yet you're kind of putting me in charge, mommy and daddy. And then children know they are not equipped to be in charge of adults. They know that. But then they're like, now what do I do? So here's what they do on the right-hand side. When young children hear either an aggressive or a passive voice, they feel frightened. And so what they do is they turn it all into a game in order to regain a sense of control. So sometimes when I see like kids running away, when a parent says, get over here right now, and they start running away and giggling, they turn it into a game because they're actually kind of afraid. Or I know sometimes we see kids laughing when someone's yelling at them, and it's not really, and then we're triggered because we're thinking, stop laughing, this is not funny. Well, they may not be really laughing. It's that nervous laugh, but we have to realize, like, they're turning it into a game because they're frightened. And so we have to do a check. What am I doing that's causing this reactivity in my child? They will turn it into a game so that they can feel in control, because they feel out of control when a parent is too aggressive or too passive. So that's just something to remember. In class, sometimes I feel like, it's like I can get really agitated if like everybody's talking and everyone's tackling each other on the rug or whatever. And if I start just yelling at the kids, they look a little bit frightened. And then some of them, the ones that are a little bit more, I don't know, kind of like maybe they'll push the limits, they'll start doing it more. And so I realize, okay, this is like not even worth me getting upset about. I need to paint the picture of what we want in a calm voice and get them back and then get going on my lesson. But that's not going to be helpful if I'm yelling at them. Okay, so helping your child pay attention to you. Okay, so if you want your child to pay attention to you, so many parents or so even teachers, they yell from 2 rooms over, hey, come over here, I need to talk to you. Get your clothes on. I mean, that's like, so you're so far away. You need to have close proximity. You need to get very close within 2 feet of your child. And you need to make eye contact with them. Oftentimes I've heard parents say they thought their child was deaf because their child never looked at them. You need to get close to them and say, make eye contact with them and even look in their eyes and say, oh, there you are. I see your eyes. That's helpful for them to like feel connected to you. And then you know that they're listening to you. Don't let them, do not speak to them and their back is to you. Go over, make eye contact. Gently use physical touch on the arm or the back to offer connection. I mean, you know your child's triggers. If they don't like to be touched on the back of the arm, I mean, don't do that. But, you know, giving connection with like touching them gently on the back when you're giving them the eye contact or whatever that looks like, they're going to feel loved and cared for, and it's going to drop their defenses. Tell the child exactly what you want them to do. Match your words with supporting gestures. Again, use your hands. If you want them to go clean up the toy room, you're going to say, you're going to grab this toy, you're going to pick it up and you're going to put it in the box. You're going to show them with your hands, you're going to show, and then talk it with your voice. Encourage your child for their choice to comply. So if they got up right away, you're going to encourage them. You did it. That's so helpful. Let's keep going. Would you like to do it by yourself or do you want me to help you? So it's just really encouraging your child once they start to comply. We want obviously their compliance, but we have to do these steps in order to get their buy-in initially. Okay, so the skill of empathy, handling the fusses and the fits. Empathy demonstrates acceptance of feelings and teaches compassion. So, I think oftentimes when our kids don't have a choice, we have to offer the empathy to them, because I think sometimes it's like, oh, I'm tired too, and we don't even give them the empathy, but it's like, you know what? I know that's really challenging for you right now. That must be really sad that you have to leave your coloring and get ready for bed. And it teaches them, like, because you're showing empathy to them, you're actually teaching them compassion when they really need to comply. Empathy allows you to listen to your child without attempting to change their feelings. So I'm so mad. I feel so angry right now because I am not tired and I don't want to go to bed. Well, you know what? You're not going to. No, you're not. You're so tired. You've been up since 5 a.m. No, you don't need to say that. You know what? That's not even going to help them. You need to show empathy. I know it's so hard to go to bed, isn't it? It's always such a hard thing to like get my body calm. That's so much more helpful than discounting their feelings. You're okay. You don't need to be like that today. That's not even helpful, because like then they're feeling so discounted and they don't feel like they have the right to feel anything. And you know what, in those moments, it is actually very uncomfortable when our kids are like moaning and whining and they want something. You know what? The thing is, it's just power of acceptance. We need to accept what is. If it's not even a good moment, you know what? We have to accept this moment as it is. You know what? My child's throwing a tantrum right now, and I'm going to accept this moment. It is what it is. Disappointment is a part of life. I will help you through it. That's the message we're giving them when we are showing empathy. When we show empathy, we are not trying to take away the problem. I think too many parents try to fix their problems for their kids. And you know what? We need to let them struggle through it, but with empathy, because that's keeping the connection with you alive. And we don't want to like discourage. We don't want to discourage them, and we want them to feel like they're safe and they're loved, and they're not alone, even when they have struggles and frustrations. Okay, so indirect expressions of emotions attack children. Direct expressions communicate with them. So if you're indirect with your expressions, like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this for you today, it it's just really attacks children and they feel attacked. But when we're direct expression, we're communicating with them. We just need to talk with them. We need to feel emotionally vulnerable. And I know sometimes, being emotionally vulnerable can be new for us because sometimes maybe in the home of origin that we grew up in, it wasn't safe to be emotional. And so our parents discounted us. And so if we never have had practice with that, it's going to be a new skill. It's going to be new for us to like have to, really communicate with our kids and really be vulnerable because that's new and it's hard. And you know what? It's not discounting because we just go, oh, come on, just suck it up. Don't cry. That isn't showing our child to be able to feel the emotions. We want them to be able to feel emotions. Okay, so disobedience in spite of assertiveness. Children will resist, refuse, and oppose you. It's part of their developmental journey. They're going to. And actually, if things are happening, when you take your child to the pediatrician, your pediatrician is probably going to want to say, like, oh, good, your child is actually kind of showing a little bit of a will. Because if they're not, something's not thriving. All people are born with a will. And so we want them to show resistance. It's just how we respond to them. So let's say level 1. I don't want to. Or they ask, why? Okay, so you're going to demonstrate. You're going to paint the picture. That's level 1. Let's just try demonstrating. I'm going to demonstrate it. This is what it looks like. Maybe they feel like when they're saying, I don't want to, maybe that feels really, if the task feels hard or overwhelming, or maybe they ask why, because they're just checking in to see what you're going to say. So you demonstrate it. Level 2, saying no to you. Okay, so you're going to use the skill of choices. That's really frustrating. You know what? You can pick up your toys and put them in this basket, or you can put them on the shelf. Giving examples, giving choices. You have to remember, give the choices, 2 choices they can live with, that you can live with. Sorry. You don't want to give them, remember, the one choice that's going to pigeonhole them into making the decision, and then the one that's the other one, because that's actually, they're going to choose the one you don't want them to pick, and then you're going to be angry. So you need to pick 2 choices that you can live with, that whichever one they pick, you're fine. Level 3, try and make me. That's kind of just maybe they say it or their body showing it. So you're going to need to be assertive with your commands, and you're going to need to use choices, and you're going to need to use empathy. Just kind of, you're going to need to pull those out of your pocket, and that's going to be helpful for you. The level 4 is a full-blown fit, and level 5 is mute withdrawal. Like they just are like, I'm not talking to you. You're going to need to use all skills, all hands on deck, and intuition. You're going to have to think, and you're probably going to need to take a break and breathe before you can go in and deal with whatever they're doing, because you are going to get really triggered by the full-blown fit and the mute withdrawal. And so you're going to need to probably take a minute, take some breaths, because your brain will go back online and you'll actually be able to think of some strategies what to do. Don't go in for it when you're like all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, I'm just going to try it. No, calm yourself down before you go in to handle your child who's having a really rough time. Okay, so this page is going to be linked when you click on the presentation. It'll take you to a PDF. It's just, so I made a screenshot of it for you. I love this. It's a scripted mantras for parents. So just things like, my child isn't, you can put these like little sticky notes all over the house and it'll be helpful for you. My child isn't doing this to me. They are doing it in front of me. This isn't limit testing. This is limit learning. So it's just little mantras that you can cut out and put all over the house to help you. Relationships are greater than rules. Great things to remember for yourself, that just to be reminded, and it's going to help you. So this is from that gal Kaylee Kukla that I told you about. So again, that'll link, and when you see the presentation, it'll link to the PDF and you can print these out. Okay, so we're going to come back to tattling a little bit, teaching assertiveness to children. So kind of like, they don't know what to do. That's why they tattle. That's why they're coming to us. So when children tattle, they do not know how to handle it. They're actually saying, help me, I don't know what to do. like somebody, say like someone, a sibling broke their toy, I don't know. So, oh, so and so broke my toy, and now I'm so sad. And we're going to teach them, did you like it? That helps them. When you ask them that, it takes them out of the emotional part of their brain that's really frustrated with whoever's hurting them or bothering them. And it's going to get them back online. Did you like it? It makes them think, no, I did not like it. So then you're going to help your child to learn to say, I don't like it when you, I want you to. Have them leave it with, I want you to. So I always in class tell them, and they're learning to do it all by themselves. I don't like it when you poke me in the back with your whiteboard. I want you to be more careful and keep it on your lap. Like they're learning, and I'm helping coach them through that so that they can learn how to say things without like, I don't like you to do that. I want you to stop. No, I really want them to give them an assertive command. I want you to do this. Give them something to like keep their brain reminded of what to do. And this is a huge one. And a child with a more passive temperament, again, we talked about it's not a personality trait, but a child with a more passive temperament, they are going to have more, they need to learn how to use their big voice. They're going to need more practice. If they're a little more on the quiet side, they can learn, but they might need a little more prompting. Kids who are like more like boisterous and loud, and it's easy for them to talk, and we're going to have to help them calm a bit. But little ones who are a little shy will just need some help, and they can get it. And it's just helping them be their best advocate for themselves. So that's what we want to see. Okay, just a couple more slides, and gosh, I think we might end a little early, and I'll definitely take questions if we need to. So using I messages. When you have been treated with disrespect, you need to respond assertively. If you respond aggressively, you are simply treating your child with disrespect while trying to teach respect. So that's the problem, is just like, we need to be, if your child just says, yeah, you're not the boss of me, you know what? You need to say, wow, you must be really frustrated right now. Right now, you have two choices. Like that's being assertive. But if we just get aggressive because we feel like our child is amping up on us, that is not going to help us, because now we're going to be disrespectful to our child while we're trying to help them be respectful. So we have to get it under control for ourselves before we go in to talk to our child. If and when they are going to be rude to us, they are going to say things because they don't like to be, they have a will. Bottom line is we all have wills. We talked about that. They have a will, so they're going to oppose you at times when they're tired, when they're hungry, when they just don't want to do it. And so we have to remember how to respond to them in a way that's assertive rather than aggressive. Okay, so I added this at the very end because I was listening to this on the way home. I don't know if you know who Brene Brown is, but she is a speaker and a researcher on shame and guilt. And so this is something that was so interesting to me because I feel like it tied in, and I'll explain why. So Brene talks about how guilt, when we live in guilt, that's actually kind of feeling like, okay, we did something wrong and we need to repair it. I feel guilty because I need to repair that. So like when we feel guilty about something, it's not a bad thing, because we're not saying I'm a bad person. It's like, I'm a good person. I just did something. I made a bad choice. Okay. But if we are shaming ourselves and then we shame others, we're basically saying you're bad. Like your whole self is bad. And so when we shame people, I think you're not being helpful. You're so messy. When we put those statements, that's actually very shame-based. And so this is what happens though. And that's why I tell parents, we don't talk about like, you're a good girl, you're a bad girl, or a good boy and bad boy, because that's shame. That is shame. And if we're shaming our kids, this is what happens. Children experience shame at the threat of being unlovable. And so no child wants to feel unlovable, because when they're in the emotional brain, they're going to say, am I loved? Am I loved? And so if we're shaming them, we're just heaping that on them, that they're a bad person, not that they made a bad choice. And so that's the difference between guilt and shame. And so, obviously we don't want to walk around feeling guilty, like, oh, I feel so guilty. if we feel guilty, then we're going to take steps to change it. But if we're full of shame, we're walking around with our shoulders hanging down, and we are feeling like we're a bad person, we're generalizing it, and then we're placing that on our kids. And we do not want them to be living in a state of shame. We want them to be able to realize that they're still loved, but they made a poor choice. And so we're going to help them fix it and teach them how to behave in a different way. Okay, so I kept all the resources. Those are all here for you. Our next book club will be on Tuesday, February 15th at 6:30. And I'm going to stop sharing now. Are there any, I know. Hi, Catherine, how are you? Are there any questions, anything, or just anything you're wondering to know about something you're kind of struggling with your child, or just anything? I'm totally fine to answer it, and no worries if you don't. Are you feeling like things are like I know the holidays could have been probably stressful too. Sometimes like gift opening and relatives, that can spur on a lot of stress too. So hopefully, in those moments you were able to reflect a little bit and see kind of what was, maybe what was going on, and just being able to be more calm and handle things. So I just, it's good to be back in school and kind of just see how the kids are progressing. I see them becoming way more emotionally, aware of each other and their feelings and talking about it. And I think that's so helpful. So, hi, Vincent. So if there are no questions, feel free to reach out to me though, privately, if you have more of an issue that you want to discuss. I will send out this recording tonight, and also those slides. If you have any other questions about those once you see them, please feel free to reach out. Okay. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a great night. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Bye. Good night, Jordan. Bye, Jamie.
Thank you.
Wait, what?
Hi, Vincent.
Bye.